for someone who doesn't know that the United States does the work it does with the OPM, what does the OPM do?
So Program Management Saudi Army National Guard started 44 years ago, 1973, as a government-to-government agreement between the royal family and the United States Department of Defense. And since that time, or at that time, the Saudi Army National Guard was about 30,000, and now it is upward of 100,000 size. Now that size force, of course, what our mission is to provide train, advise, and assist, and also the foreign military sales aspect of fielding the equipment, sustaining and training it. Now, our organization has also grown with the growing of the Saudi Army National Guard. And right now we're at about 233 personnel. Half are uniformed military, and then half are also government civilian employees. And we oversee, again, that aspect of the train, advise, and assist in foreign military sales. We are broken down into a train, advise, and assist group that is both ground and aviation. And then we have contracting, then we have program management, and then we have a money distribution, or a G8 portion of the organization. We're walking them through their train, advise, and assist type of mission. And the latest acquisition has been our aviation force, which has just been, as of 18 months ago, they had no aircraft, and now we have fielded the 1st Brigade, and we're prepared to continue fielding that through 2023.
And when it comes to those brigades, why do they need them?
Well, the mission of the Saudi Army National Guard is both for protection of the royal family and internal security, and also border security. So the aviation, as you can imagine, with the tyranny of distance of Saudi Arabia, which is larger than the state of Texas, much larger, to try to get from one end to another, to be able to react to some type of threat within the kingdom or along the border. Aviation provides that flexibility and that speed and that range that otherwise you wouldn't be able to address it by just ground forces alone.
Great, and no, we can't talk specific numbers, but the type of aircraft that are, why the AH-6, why the Apache, why the Black Hawk?
Again, it gives the depth and breadth of information, whether it is a movement of forces with your UH-60 Mike model, or it's some type of security mission that requires some type of lethal capability. Then you have your AH-64 Echo. And then if it has a reconnaissance with an armed potential requirement, then you have your AH-6I. So each one is filling a required need that has been identified within the Saudi Army National Guard.
And some incredible work with you. As of right now, where's the progress with fielding that whole force?
Oh, fielding the whole force? Well, actually, we've gone through an intensive training cycle. Well, let me back up and talk about, so the program management, our office, again, 18 months ago was about 5 aviation-related soldiers, whether it's a commissioned officer, warrant officer, or an NCO. We're at 52 now. So we are actually in the cockpits, flying with the Saudi Army National Guard pilots, helping to train them. We're also on the flight line going through the maintenance procedures with our NCOs and our technical warrants. And also we have a company that we contract with, Vanilla Arabia, and they are also part of the training force. So you can imagine that expansion of growth has truly helped them go from no aircraft 18 months ago to the aircraft they have today, and what we're going to achieve by 2023 to be able to meet the intent and the mission that the King has set down.
And the Middle East isn't exactly a quiet zone of the world right now, so it's that brings more urgency to fielding the force.
Yes, and again, it's a unique requirement. It's unique to certainly the Saudi National Guard, and it'll give them a greater depth of capability and speed of action.
When it comes to working with the Saudis, you're in country, you're working with them every day. That leads to almost a one team.
It is. It's a one team, one fight. So the size of our force, and again, it's not just aviation. We have ground maneuver support aspects of personnel that go all the way down to the battalion level with trainers, one-on-one trainers that are involved both in the aviation and the ground side. They are down with these organizations every day. I meet with Saudis, the Saudi counterparts that I have, every day, and we talk, whether it's brigade commanders or it's with the chief military officer or the deputy minister, and to talk about, what are we doing today, what are we trying to identify to do for the future, and then how can we get there.
You touched on it a little bit. I know we're at an aviation conference, a big focus is aviation, but ground force is also a big thing.
Absolutely.
What type of vehicles are you equipping?
So they have the LAV, so the same one that our Marines have. They have LAVs, and they have some other type of, like, their version of JLTVs, but their main maneuver force they have is the LAV. And they're actually, their base organization when they really started to grow from 1973 on, was the LAV Brigade, and they had several in Riyadh, but they're now expanding that to just give them, again, a greater depth of capability.
And I meant to ask at the very beginning, but you touched on a little bit with the mission, but Saudi Arabia has a ground forces already. They have an air force. They have their maritime forces. Why is a National Guard needed? And it's not like our National Guard.
Right. It's not. They are full-time. So, again, the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, has their missions that involve potential other type of requirements that have been identified by the king and by the royal family, where the Saudi Army National Guard is truly focused on the protection of both the royal family and the realm itself. So think of it as more of an internal security capability to include facilities that have been identified as critical facilities that have to be protected.
Like an oil field.
Like many of those locations, yes.
And finally, sir, what's next? What am I going to expect to see over the next couple of years coming out of the office?
Well, so as we're going to finish growing the ground force here probably within the next year or so. And once that's complete, then we will continue to grow the aviation all the way through 2023. And what we can see is as that expansion occurs, of course, Program Management Office is going to have to expand to make sure that we meet the growing need that's going to occur across the Saudi National Guard. And then continually, and as you know, when you buy this very expensive equipment, it's not just buying it, it's maintaining it. And so the life cycle management of the maintenance of both the ground forces and the aviation forces is going to be critical, and we'll help oversee that and guide the program management organization, guide the Saudi Army National Guard through that process.
And could you see, right now it's all about standing up these in training and starting this aviation force. Could you see over the next few years as the life cycle continues moving to more of a sustainment focus?
It will be sustained, but so as you go through life cycle maintenance process, to me it's a sustain, it's a continue to maintain that training level that is, the uncompromising, standards that you have to have. But then there's, as time goes on and technologies increase, you have to also do upgrades and block upgrades and modernization of that equipment. So it's really, it's never ending as you're going through the process. And that's not just for the aviation, but it's also for the ground force.
Great, sir. Is there anything about the OPM's mission that I didn't hit? Because you're the expert, not me.
Well, I'll tell you that we are truly blessed with the subject matter expertise that is within our organization is just, it's a phenomenal organization. And it's almost like we equate it to, it's a mini Pentagon, Forcecom, TRADOC, and ASALT acquisition all together in a mini organization. And this model is unique, the most unique model. I think it's the only one that exists right now that we're applying across the world in building that partner capacity. And it's the capability that we have. We're working with other members within DoD to help shape other locations that want to kind of emulate our organization but won't necessarily be the same size and scope. But you can tailor our organization to meet requirements that may exist to build that partner capacity in other locations throughout the world.